Hello and welcome to another episode of Journal of the Body. My name is Abby Fernandini and I have had a crazy day today, so I just plopped down on my bed with my dog after putting Luca to sleep and said with a cup of tea in my hand, you know what, I want to talk about this. I want to put some thought out into the world about this particular topic, and that is, if you don't know where to start in your health journey, here's where you can start. I'm going to kind of just break it down. Or at least what I would do if I could go back and rewind the clock and say to myself when I was coming out of high school into college, really interested in nutrition and exercise physiology, I was like, where do I start? And here's what I will say now, knowing all the things that I know is like, first of all, the more I learn, the less I know. And that is like absolutely without a doubt my mindset and my philosophy now in the health space. And the other thing that I also know now is that the health space can be exceptionally dogmatic, and that is exceptionally problematic for people who are in their phase that they basically need healing. The dogma does not coincide with healing always. And so it can be really counterintuitive to be in the health and wellness space and realize that your health can actually decline in a lot of ways. So if I were 7-8 years ago, starting my health journey from the beginning again, here's a few things I would take into account. Let's start out by saying that the holistic health space has a lot of flaws, as well as Western medicine does. And so, Western medicine gets such a bad rep because it's like a pill for every disease, a pill for every ailment, a pill for every condition, a surgery, a this, a that. Oh, it's surface level. It doesn't connect the dots. And that is honestly my biggest issue with Western medicine, that and I just have white coat syndrome, which means that I literally cannot go to the hospital without getting major bouts of anxiety. And so the same thing can be said sometimes in holistic health space, because there's also a lot of fear mongering in the day-to-day living. And so you can see stuff online and get really far down rabbit holes that are not necessarily really relevant to your health as a whole, because they can pull you so far away from just being a well-balanced human, that I've seen that happen so often. So let's start here. A lot of people right now are getting their information about holistic and functional health from Instagram, okay? From Instagram, from Twitter, from TikTok. Like, these different pieces of content on these platforms go viral, and there's a lot of buzz, a lot of hype, a lot of misinformation spread, a lot of great information spread that gets taken to really extremes, right? So people get overwhelmed when they're starting their health journey, because a lot of the content that they're getting exposed to happens to be from these really fast 5-second long videos or threads, whatever it is. It's not like you're sitting down like you once used to with a book on a particular topic that's walking you through step by step, trying to understand a much bigger picture of what, for example, health is, or what deep, good, nourishing nutrition is for a human, right? Like, you're not getting these nice, elaborate, contextualized pieces of content that books provide. You're getting these snippets of 5 seconds, like clickbait, essentially. So it can make starting your health journey exceptionally overwhelming, because you're like hearing things about parasite cleansing and heavy metal detoxing, and rub this on the bottom of your feet, or sleep like this, or if you're not doing this and this first thing in the morning, then you can guarantee your gut's out of whack. If you're not, like, the noise is overwhelming. And so I think that the conversations that I've been having as of recent have really looked like people coming to me being really just like confused on where to start. And so if I could give one beginning piece of information, or just piece of advice, I would say, about you starting your health journey, it would be cut out all the noise and start with the basics, okay? Right now, if you're just now getting started, you say, I need to make lifestyle changes. I need to get this together. I need to get that together. I need to get my health together because my family's depending on me. My kids are depending on me. My boyfriend, husband's depending on me. My work is depending on me. I'm depending on me and I don't even like myself. And that's a lot of times, like, I think that was like one of the big things for me is like, I wasn't even happy with myself. I didn't like myself. And I was like, well, the way that I can improve this relationship with myself is to get healthy. But then when you go to get healthy, you get overwhelmed. You don't know where to start because there's so much information, right? Start with the basics. What does that mean? What are the basics? Well, let's break it down super simply on what does a person need to live. Okay? Easy. Let's start out with the first food. Food and water. Okay? Your food, you don't have to be perfect right out of the gate, okay? You don't even have to be halfway to your end goal for at some point, because I think about over the last 7 years, 8 years, how my diet has evolved so drastically. It just slowly continued to get better and better as time went on, and as I picked up little tidbits of information here and there and didn't overwhelm myself and had a very, very overarching focus of 2 premises, okay? Now I need to get protein at every single meal that I'm eating to try to hit my goal protein, which is my body weight in grams, okay? And I needed to be focused on whole foods. That's it. That's literally how I would categorize my approach to food, okay? I have forgone this dogma of you need to be paleo, you need to be vegan, you need to be carnivore, you need to be this, you need to be that, you can't eat this with that, you can't eat that with that, you can't do this. Like, all of that is noise, okay? What you need to do is make sure you're getting protein at every single meal and you're focusing on whole foods. Have some roasted carrots, have some rice. And when I say whole foods, I really mean foods that hold water, okay? So things that literally have a water content in them, not dehydrated snacks like Cheez-Its or Cheetos or beef jerky. I'm talking about foods that are going to nourish you with minerals, vitamins, but also are going to hydrate you. That is a huge issue that we see a lot of times in diets, especially the standard American diet. It's something crazy, like less than 9% of our daily water intake comes from our food that we eat in America, whereas if you look at other countries, especially Asian countries, they're getting up to 40% of their daily water intake from the foods that they're eating, okay? So those are my rules for myself, and you can choose to adopt those, but I think that they make things really easy. Getting enough protein, focusing on whole foods that have good water content, mineral, and nutrient content in them. And speaking of water, the next thing is water. You need water, you need good water, you need clean water. You also need to get water in a lot of different places and sources, like I just mentioned. Your food should be providing you hydration, as well as you actually drinking water. And not only that, you don't necessarily just have to drink water to get hydrated. You can also drink broths and juices and things that will also provide additional nourishment and minerals. One of my favorite ways to get good, just hydration is from bone broth. I love to drink bone broth. I also love to drink juices like beet, carrot, celery, apple juices. They just provide an extra boost, and I always feel so good and just nourished when I incorporate these into my diet regularly. And when we talk about water, make sure that you've just got a filter. If you don't want to invest in, a whole house, crazy system, you can always get a spring water delivery service, or you can go to Whole Foods and fill up Like they have reverse osmosis or alkaline or spring water. Spring water is a great option. Just make sure you're getting clean water. Just don't drink tap water all the time, because I could go on an entire rant of all of the chemicals, parasites, things like birth control, pharmaceuticals, everything, heavy metals. I could go on and on and on about what is in the tap water if you're not filtering it out. So that's it. Those are the first two, food and water. And don't overcomplicate it. Don't get frustrated with yourself if you're not perfect to begin with, because nobody is doing this stuff 100% perfect all the time. And you just have to remember, this is what I tell myself now, especially if I'm traveling or if I'm this or that and I can't stick to my very, very regimented routine. It's like, I'm just doing my best. Okay, I'm in the airport right now and I need to look for some whole food snacks. Like, do your best. And that's all you can do. But every day, just try to get a little bit better. So that's the first two, food and water. Start with the basics, right? Don't get into the dogma of parasite cleansing and supplements and going to spend thousands of dollars on functional nutrition and practitioners, which, with the caveat, they can be amazing, but you need to kind of correct your basics first before you look to getting more narrowed in health advice, because they're going to tell you all of this stuff. So I just want to save you the headache of them telling you stuff you already know, right? The next thing is, of course, exercising. Are you moving your body? And there's more reasons than just staying fit that you want to move your body. The biggest one for me is, of course, yes, the cardiovascular system, but also the lymphatic system. Okay, our lymphatic system is a pretty strong mirror to the cardiovascular system, and it's a different system. I'm sure you've heard of your lymph nodes and your glands. Well, there's these tiny, tiny vessels, basically pathways that run all through the body, and they follow suit with things like nerves and nerve endings, as well as veins and arteries, etc. But they're carrying waste, and that is our lymphatic system. And our lymphatic system can have high viral loads and bacterial overloads and all sorts of things, parasites, all this yummy stuff, if we're not exercising and eating properly. And maybe we have had lots of pharmaceutical drugs, maybe we've had certain vaccines, we drink a lot of alcohol, whatever the case may be. A lot of times, our lymphatic system can get really taxed, and it only makes it worse if you are stagnant, because stagnant pools breed disease. And I will scream that from the rooftops. If you're not moving, just like a river, and instead you're basically a lake that has stagnant bacterial infested water, it's going to breed disease. And so moving your body, sweating it out, because the lymphatic system also likes to excrete this via the sweat, making sure that you're getting that movement, even if it's just walking once or twice a day, it makes a world of a difference for your detox pathways, for your organs, and for your mood, your overall well-being. There's a lot there. So if you're looking at these first three things that I would focus on, right? Food, water, and exercise. Figure out which one of those right now you want to focus on first, okay? And just choose and make a decision tomorrow to improve, even if it's just a little bit. I've been thinking about ordering that water filter. I think I'm just going to do it. Or I think I've been thinking about going to this yoga class. I think I'm just going to do it. Just stick with the basics and keep it simple. Choose one of these categories to focus on to start, and then go from there and figure out what you want to attack, or I should say approach next. The other two categories that I think of when I think about getting the 5 basics down are sleep and then your environment. So Let's start out with sleep, okay? Sleep is absolutely fundamental, and this may be the thing that you need to work on. Maybe you do have the nutrition down, and maybe you do have the water down, but you're experiencing strange energy depletion, fatigue, maybe you have odd symptoms, whatever the case may be. Sleep is absolutely fundamental. Now, first of all, women need more sleep than men. So if you're a woman and you need 8 to 9 hours of sleep a night, hey, that's totally fine. That's okay. That's great. That's what you need to function optimally as a human, okay? Men can get away with a little bit less sleep. So men can get away with 6 to 7 hours and they can be functioning just fine. Women tend to take a little bit more of a hit, and that can technically be seen usually with hormones, okay? So what is optimal sleep look like? Well, there's getting enough sleep, so the hours, the duration, but then there's actually the time in which you sleep that is really, really important, because a lot of times what people don't realize is that we are very connected to the earth and the moon cycles, and our circadian rhythm is tied to all of those things. So us going to sleep at 3 a.m. and waking up at 1 p.m. in the afternoon is a lot different than us going to sleep at 9 p.m. and waking up at 6 p.m. or not 6 p.m., 6 a.m. the next day. Those are very, very different sleep cycles, even if they are the same amount of sleep, okay? And that is because, like I mentioned, we are very connected to the earth, and we will not go into the same wavelengths cycles. Like, our brains do not end up getting the same benefit if we are going to sleep super, super late in the night, as opposed to a little bit after the sun sets. So right now, for example, I go to sleep at 9 p.m. typically, 9 to 10 p.m. It just depends on Luca and my night. And then I'll wake up in between, it depends, 5:30 to 7 a.m. That's usually the windows that I tend to toggle. And having a baby really has shown me how important my sleep is to my health, because on the nights when I get enough sleep, I feel healthy. My entire world has changed, my energy, everything. I'm ready to conquer. On the days that I'm not getting great sleep with Luca, like last night, I can physically feel the depletion in my body. It's very real. So I have a couple of habits that help me get my sleep on lock, and I'm sure if you follow people in the space, there's a lot of different things they talk about with sleep and this and that, but there's a couple of just simple things that have helped me. First of all, I'm wearing blue blocker glasses right now. I think that those are really important because I'm not looking at a screen. I'm not activating cortisol in my body that's going to keep me up longer at night. I don't watch TV before going to sleep typically. We don't really watch movies. We actually end up reading. And reading is amazing because it activates your parasympathetic nervous system and it switches you on into a Zen state. It really does. It has a very impactful way of doing that. Rodrigo has seen drastic differences in how he goes to sleep and his sleep because he started reading before bed. And he notices he gets really sleepy, really tired, and it just helps you completely unwind, especially if you're tuning into a story that takes you out of reality and takes you out of like being right here and takes you into another world. Maybe you're reading fiction, whatever the case may be. Reading is really powerful before sleeping. I also love red light therapy. I'm using my red light right now. And I also love blackout curtains. Blackout curtains are great for my sleep. Sleeping in a cold room is also really, really important for getting deep sleep. So I sleep between 67 and 69 degrees. It also is true that babies sleep well in colder climates, as long as they're wearing something proper to go to sleep, but they sleep better in the cold as well. So we find ourselves on nights when it's hot. I find myself waking up at night more frequently and just being overall disturbed. So that is the next category. That is fixing the basics, quote, end quote. And the final one is your environment. Now, this is kind of an umbrella term because there's a couple of different things when you think about your environment, right? You think about the relationships you have, you think about things like your job, you think about your actual literal living space, which is your house, and you think about the things that you're consuming. So your music, the things you're reading, the TV you're watching, all of those things are kind of encompassed in your environment, right? So sometimes we've got the nutrition on lock, we've got the, water on lock and getting nourished and good sleep and exercising, but maybe our environment is throwing us off. I can tell you for a fact, I'll give a personal example, that is something that I've been struggling with right now, and more specifically social media. So I found myself all of a sudden following celebrities and things like I've seen so much Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. Like, I'm like, what is going on? All of a sudden I know all these things about them that I would never care to have known about them, about other celebrities. I started, because my social media really started taking over with some of those content pieces, and I found myself wasting time on things that do not serve my purpose in life and do not give me energy. It's just time consuming. And so this shift in my environment that I saw on social media has impacted me in other areas. It's impacted how much time I spend doing other things, maybe nourishing myself, maybe exercising. I found myself spending more time than I should and following people that I do not care about, if I'm being totally honest. But for some reason, it was like this time waster that all of a sudden found its way into my habits. And so now I'm spending time in correcting that, because I've really noticed how much it's shifted, and it's given me a keeping up with the Joneses type of attitude, where I'm like, oh, I wonder what so-and-so is doing, and this person and that person, and oh my gosh, they're in this place and that place. And it's perpetuated this comparison crisis, I would call it. And that's so not me. That's not what I do. That's not serving me. That is a rift in my environment. Okay, so that's a really great example. Other things that can be really detrimental when it comes to your environment is your literal space that you live in. So if you're living with a roommate that you cannot stand, you need to get out of that situation. It can impact you in so many ways. It can impact your mental health. You oftentimes know what you need to change in your environment to get healthier. It's just a matter of you actually doing it. When your space is really cluttery and really disorganized and messy, I have a book on feng shui, and that is really, really important to clean up and to release dense energy in your life. You do not want to live in a cluttered, disorganized, messy space. It really takes a toll on you. And even people who say, oh, well, this is just me. Oh, I do totally fine with disorganization and clutter and all this stuff. I'm fine. You say that, but it actually does impact you. And when you declutter and you organize things and you create softer Zen spaces for yourself, you will actually feel an energetic shift. I also found this to be the case for myself recently. We are moving. We sold our house recently, and so we've just been decluttering like crazy. So we have the bare minimum right now in the house, which is amazing, because I realized how much dense energy was lingering from all of the stuff I stuffed under the bed, in the closets, in the drawers, in the this. And when I started cleaning out that stuff, I just had this complete mindset shift. And so, yes, your environment in the sense of your living space is exceptionally important, that you keep on top of that and you take the time to declutter, because that can be as good for you as eating a well-rounded meal or going to a workout class. That is creating mental freedom. Your relationships are another one. I don't even need to go into this one, because a lot of times people, they know the relationships they need to cut out of their lives, whether it's a boyfriend, whether it's a toxic friend or a family member, whatever. We know the toxic relationships in our lives. We just don't want to do that heavy lifting of actually cutting them out, because it comes with baggage sometimes, and it comes with distraught feelings and emotions and having to dissociate from certain people, and it can be hard, but like, you know what you need to do. Anyway, so this podcast, like I said, has been dedicated to just going over the basics that you can really evaluate first before getting into the nitty-gritty of parasite cleansing and going to practitioners and doing all these things that, you're skipping steps basically. And like, we've complicated health so much where it's like, if we can just get these 5 basic things down first and then work our way into the other categories from there, like we will feel so much healthier. And it's so funny because I think all the time about, like, whenever I take inventory of my health, I'm like, oh, should I do a parasite cleanse? Or should I do some cleansing? Should I, do this interesting procedure? Should I try these peptides, right? Should I add this new supplement? I ask myself all these questions. And then sometimes I have to take a step back and I'm like, oh, actually, maybe you should cut out that toxic person who has been in your life that you need to remove yourself from, because maybe these feelings will get resolved. Or, oh, maybe you've just been in this place for a while where you've not been drinking good water and you just need to get some spring water and really need to focus on just staying hydrated with broths and juices and stuff. Like, sometimes majority of the time, I'd say the adjustments I make are in one of these 5 categories. And it's just trying not to overcomplicate things and just be really honest with yourself. And sometimes we can really not be honest with ourselves. And we know what we need to do sometimes to get healthy, but it's just, we have these mental blocks that don't let us do that. And so sometimes some of us will go to practitioners and go to doctors and go to functional med, whatever, and get blood work done. And they'll tell us what we already knew, right? Well, you need to eat this way, eat healthier, because of X, Y, or Z, or you need to exercise more, or you need to adjust, this habit. And it's like, we already knew the things that we need to do. And so, yeah, that is what I wanted to say. If you don't know where to start in your health journey, start with these 5 categories and just take inventory with yourself. Be gracious with yourself. Give yourself grace and mercy. Don't beat yourself up. If you do not change all at once, if you have gradual progressions, that's an amazing way to do things. That's actually how I would say I did things, because going the more extreme routes can lead to reverting back to old ways, as opposed to introducing these smaller changes in habits slowly over time. There's just a lot more, I would say, longevity in that approach. And overall, that's the tea. That's what I got for today, guys. So if you like this episode, please share it with some friends. You feel free to always DM me whenever, and I'll see you soon. Soon.